I started flipping sneakers in high school. Now I run a six-figure business, faced betrayal, lost thousands, and had to rebuild from scratch. I never thought I'd be rich. I grew up in a middle-class home, the kind where you didn't have to worry about food on the table, but also didn't get the latest gaming console the moment it dropped. My parents were practical people, always talking about saving for the future and making wise financial choices. That's probably why they were less than thrilled when I spent most of my free time scrolling through Reddit and playing around with random business ideas instead of focusing on my homework. But let me tell you how everything changed overnight. It was my junior year of high school, and life was normal. Boring even. I had a decent group of friends, passable grades, and a part-time job bagging groceries at the local supermarket. Nothing extraordinary. I wasn't some prodigy coding in my basement or a social media influencer with 1 million followers. Just a regular teenager with a habit of daydreaming about hitting it big. One night, while I was deep into an internet rabbit hole about weird ways people had gotten rich, I stumbled across a niche business idea: reselling limited edition sneakers. Now, I'd heard about sneakerheads before, but I never really paid much attention to the hype. But as I scrolled through forums and online communities, I realized that people were making serious money flipping rare kicks, like thousands of dollars per pair. That got my attention. I didn't have much to invest, but I did have my savings from the grocery store job, about $600. I figured, why not take a chance? Worst case scenario, I'd end up with a cool pair of shoes. I did my research, found an upcoming sneaker drop that people were raving about, and used every trick I could find online to increase my chances of getting a pair. By some miracle, I managed to snag two. A week later, I flipped them for a $1,200 profit. That was the moment I realized I had something. And that was the moment everything in my life started to change. After that first win, I became obsessed. I spent every free second diving into sneaker culture, learning about market trends, and studying which brands and collaborations held the most value. It wasn't just Nike or Adidas. There were other brands with cult followings, and I needed to understand them all. I also learned about sneaker bots, software that increased your chances of getting limited releases before they sold out. It was expensive, but if used correctly, it could turn a decent profit. The problem? I didn't have enough money to buy one. That's when I got creative. I started reaching out to people online, offering to help manually secure sneakers for them in exchange for a small fee. It wasn't much, but it was enough to slowly build up my bankroll. Within a couple of months, I had flipped over 20 pairs and had nearly $10,000 in my bank account. I couldn't believe it. My parents, still clueless about what I was doing, just assumed I had gotten a raise at the grocery store. My friends? Well, they started noticing that I wasn't stressing over money like I used to. I could actually afford things: new clothes, better headphones, even a used car. But the craziest part? This was just the beginning. As my sneaker reselling business took off, I realized I needed to take things more seriously. The more I learned about the market, the more I understood that timing was everything. A single delayed sale could mean the difference between a huge profit and barely breaking even. I started setting alarms for sneaker drops, joining exclusive reselling Discord servers, and networking with other resellers. Soon, I was waking up at odd hours just to secure limited edition releases. Some drops required me to be online at 4 a.m., refreshing pages and competing with thousands of other buyers. It was intense, but I loved the thrill of the chase. It felt like a high-stakes game, and I was getting better at playing it. Eventually, I took my business to the next level. Instead of just flipping individual pairs, I started investing in sneaker bot rentals, pooling money with other resellers to buy bulk stock, and even building relationships with store employees who had insider information on upcoming drops. By the time I was a senior in high school, my bank account had ballooned to over $50,000. That's when the real problem started. Word spread fast that I had money. People at school started treating me differently. Some were impressed, asking for advice on how they could start flipping sneakers too. Others were resentful, making snide comments about how I must have been scamming people. Even some teachers seemed skeptical of how a high schooler could be making that much cash legally. But the biggest change was at home. My parents finally caught on that my grocery store paycheck wasn't funding my lifestyle. One night, my dad sat me down at the kitchen table, his expression serious. "All right, kid, What exactly are you doing to make all this money? I hesitated. I knew they wouldn't understand. My mom in particular was always suspicious of anything that wasn't a real job. So I laid it all out for them, explaining the sneaker market, the demand, and how I was simply capitalizing on it. My dad listened carefully, nodding, but my mom's expression darkened. This sounds risky. What if you get scammed? What if something goes wrong? You need to focus on school, not whatever this is. I assured them I had everything under control, but I could tell they weren't convinced. My dad, always the pragmatic one, eventually sighed and said, "As long as you're not doing anything illegal and you're saving some of this money, I won't stop you. But be smart." It was the closest thing to approval I could expect. At school, things got even weirder when one of my teachers pulled me aside after class. "I heard from some students that you're making money online. Is that true?" I wasn't sure where this was going, so I nodded cautiously. We have a business club that competes in entrepreneurship competitions. You should consider joining. You could probably win. I had never thought about something like that. Until now, reselling sneakers had just been about making money. But what if I could turn it into something more? That's when I started thinking bigger. Joining the business club turned out to be a game changer. At first, I wasn't sure what to expect, but as I attended meetings and met other ambitious students, I realized this was exactly what I needed. The club gave me access to resources, mentors, and most importantly, a network of people who were serious about making money. One of the club advisors, Mr. Callahan, was a former entrepreneur himself. When he heard about my sneaker business, he was genuinely impressed. "You have a real knack for spotting market trends," he told me. "But have you thought about scaling beyond sneakers?" That was the moment I started considering other ventures. Sneakers were great, but there were limits. I began exploring other high-demand products, gaming consoles, limited edition collectibles, even high-end streetwear. Before I knew it, I wasn't just flipping sneakers. I was running a full-fledged online reselling business. Scaling up brought new challenges. With bigger investments came bigger risks. I started dealing with bulk orders, shipping logistics, and customer service issues. Some deals fell through, and a few times I lost money. But every setback was a lesson. At the same time, I started gaining recognition in the online reseller community. Some influencers even reached out for partnerships. My business was no longer just a hustle. It was turning into something real. But with success came more scrutiny. My parents demanded I show them exactly how I was handling transactions, worried I'd get in trouble. My friends started acting differently. Some wanted handouts, others wanted in. And then there were the scammers. Fake buyers, hacked accounts, and shady middlemen became real threats. I had to learn how to navigate this world fast, or I'd lose everything. One day, I received a message from someone claiming to be an investor. They wanted to fund my expansion, bigger storage, more products, a fully automated bot network. It sounded like the opportunity of a lifetime. But was it too good to be true? I did my research on the supposed investor. Their LinkedIn profile seemed legitimate, and they had a decent online presence. Still, something felt off. I decided to test them by asking for a contract. They hesitated. That was my first red flag. Meanwhile, my business was growing faster than I could manage alone. I needed help. I decided to bring in a friend, Derek, who had been interested in the business for a while. He was reliable, tech-savvy, and eager to learn. With him on board, I could delegate some of the work and focus on the bigger picture. We streamlined operations. We created a spreadsheet to track sales, expenses, and profits. We also developed a strategy for handling customer disputes and avoiding scammers. Everything was running smoothly until we made a costly mistake. A supplier we had worked with before offered us an exclusive deal on a bulk order of high-end sneakers. The deal seemed too good to pass up. We wired the money, $20,000, expecting delivery within a week. That week turned into 2, then 3. Our messages went unanswered. The supplier had vanished. We had been scammed. That was a hard lesson. It wiped out nearly half our profits. Derek and I were devastated, but we had no choice but to move forward. We tightened security, verified all new suppliers rigorously, and implemented safer payment methods. At school, things were spiraling. Rumors about my business spread, and not all of them were flattering. Some kids claimed I was running a Ponzi scheme. Others thought I was laundering money. Even a teacher pulled me aside, asking if everything I was doing was legal. It was exhausting trying to defend myself while keeping my business afloat. Then, something unexpected happened. A well-known sneaker boutique in the city reached out. They had heard about my work and wanted to collaborate. They offered me a contract to supply them with rare sneakers. This was huge, a legitimate business deal that could take me to the next level. But there was a catch. They needed a consistent inventory, which meant more capital up front. After the scam, I was hesitant, but if I could pull it off, it would cement my reputation as a real player in the industry. Derek and I debated for days. Should we take the risk? Could we handle the demand? In the end, we decided to go for it. We pooled our remaining money, secured a few trusted suppliers, and made our first bulk delivery to the boutique. It worked. The boutique was thrilled with our service and placed another order. For the first time, it felt like we had made it to the big leagues. But with success came another problem: competition. Other resellers were starting to notice me. Some tried to undercut my prices. Others attempted to sabotage my deals. The pressure was intense, but I refused to back down. One day, I got an anonymous message. "You're stepping on the wrong toes. Back off." I had no idea who sent it, but I knew one thing: I wasn't going anywhere. The anonymous warning rattled me, but I wasn't about to let it stop me. If anything, it fueled my determination to push forward. Derek and I doubled down on security, both online and in real life. We used encrypted messaging apps, set up two-factor authentication on everything, and kept our inventory location secret. But the threats didn't stop. A few days later, someone hacked into my seller account. I woke up to find thousands of dollars worth of inventory gone. Panic set in, but I acted fast. I contacted the platform, froze my account, and managed to recover some of the stolen goods. It was a harsh reminder that I wasn't just dealing with amateurs anymore. This was a high-stakes game. Then, the physical threat started. One night, I noticed a car parked outside my house for hours. Another time, someone spray-painted "Stay out of our business" on my locker at school. It was clear. Someone wanted me gone. Derek and I had to make a decision. Do we scale back and lay low, or do we fight back? We chose to fight. We ramped up our security measures, hired a lawyer to protect our business, and even reported the threats to the police. But we also knew we needed leverage. So, we started digging. Using online forums and reseller networks, we pieced together information about who might be behind the attacks. It didn't take long before a name surfaced: Ethan Carter, one of the biggest resellers in the area. He had a reputation for running an aggressive operation, and it looked like he saw me as a threat. Instead of confronting him directly, I decided to outplay him. We exposed his unethical tactics on reseller forums, warning others about his scams and intimidation tactics. Word spread fast, and soon his reputation took a hit. He tried to retaliate, but by then I had built a solid network of supporters. Just when I thought things were finally stabilizing, a new challenge arose: mainstream media. A local news station got wind of my story and wanted to interview me. It was an opportunity to legitimize my business, but also a risk. Going public could attract more unwanted attention. After careful consideration, I agreed. The segment aired on the evening news, showcasing how a high schooler built a six-figure business. Overnight, my online following exploded. More boutiques reached out, investors wanted in, and even some teachers started treating me differently. But success came at a price. The more attention I got, the harder it became to balance school, business, and my personal life. The pressure was mounting, and for the first time, I started wondering, was it all worth it? With my business booming and my name gaining recognition, I should have been at the peak of my success. But instead, I was drowning in pressure. Juggling school, my personal life, and an ever-growing business was pushing me to my limits. I barely had time to sleep, let alone relax. The constant fear of being sabotaged or hacked again loomed over me like a storm cloud. Derek, always my voice of reason, suggested we start hiring employees, people who could handle logistics, customer service, and even some of the networking. It was a logical step, but it terrified me. Bringing in outsiders meant trusting them with sensitive information, and after everything we had been through, that trust didn't come easily. But we had no choice. The demand was growing beyond what the two of us could handle. We carefully vetted a small team, two students we knew from school and a college business major who had reached out after seeing my news segment. At first, it was a game changer. With more hands on deck, I could finally take a breath. But it also came with complications I hadn't foreseen. The more people involved, the harder it was to keep things under control. There were occasional mix-ups with orders, inventory discrepancies, and miscommunications that cost us time and money. One employee quit after 2 weeks, saying the stress was too much. Another turned out to be unreliable, showing up late and making careless mistakes. Managing a team was harder than I'd anticipated. Then came the biggest blow. One day, I logged into our accounts to find that over $30,000 worth of inventory had disappeared. Someone had siphoned off products without a trace. Panic set in. Derek and I scrambled to figure out what had happened. Had we been hacked again? Was it an inside job? We interrogated our employees, but no one admitted to anything. The betrayal stung, but there was no time to dwell on it. We had to recover. With our funds drained and a major boutique order due, we were desperate. That's when an investor I had previously ignored reached out again. He saw what happened and offered to cover the losses, on one condition. He wanted a stake in the business. A controlling stake. Derek was completely against it. We built this from the ground up. Giving up control isn't worth it, he argued. But I wasn't sure. The stress, the pressure, the constant paranoia, it was all getting to me. Maybe letting someone else take some of the burden wasn't such a bad idea. Maybe it was my way out. I was at a crossroads. Either I accepted the investment and risked losing control of what I had built, or I turned it down and found another way to rebuild. Both options had consequences, and I wasn't sure I was ready for either. For the first time since this all started, I felt completely lost. Derek and I sat in my room, staring at the contract the investor had sent over. The numbers looked good. Too good. He was offering enough to not only cover our losses, but also to expand. We could upgrade our storage facilities, improve security, and even bring on a full-time team. It was tempting, but there was one problem. I wouldn't be the sole decision-maker anymore. Once you sign this, Derek warned, we're not calling the shots anymore. This guy could take everything we've built and run it his way. I sighed. I know, but what choice do we have? We're out 30 grand. We need capital. Derek shook his head. There's always another way. We could take out a loan. We could downsize and rebuild. Anything but this. The weight of the decision was suffocating. I had spent years crafting this business, making every call, every deal, every risk my own. Was I really ready to hand over the reins to someone else? Would I even recognize my own company once someone else had control? I needed advice. I turned to the one person I never thought I would, my dad. He listened carefully as I explained the situation. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and said, "Son, money can solve problems, but it can also create bigger ones. You have to ask yourself, do you want to be rich or do you want to be in control?" I didn't answer right away. The truth was I wanted both. That night, I barely slept. I kept running scenarios in my head. What if I took the deal and lost creative control? What if I rejected it and never recovered financially? I thought about everything I had built from the ground up, the countless hours, the risks I had taken. Could I really give that away so easily? The next morning, I made my decision. I met with Derek at our usual spot, the coffee shop where we had brainstormed some of our first big moves. I slid the contract across the table and watched as his face slowly lit up. "We're turning it down?" he asked. I nodded. "We rebuild. On our terms." Derek grinned and clapped me on the back. "Hell yeah. So what's next?" "We go back to basics. We refine our process, tighten security, and focus on what we do best. No shortcuts, no investors calling the shots. We take control of our own destiny." The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I knew one thing for sure. We weren't done yet. Rejecting the investor was the right choice, but it didn't make things any easier. Derek and I were back to square one, trying to recover from the massive financial loss. Every decision felt critical, and we had no margin for error. We spent the next few weeks tightening security, cutting unnecessary expenses, and focusing on efficiency. It was grueling, but we knew that if we wanted to survive, we had to be smarter, leaner, and more strategic than ever. One of the first things we did was rebuild trust, both with our customers and within our own team. After the theft, morale had plummeted, and even the most loyal clients were wary of placing large orders. We implemented a new tracking system, ensuring complete transparency with orders, and personally reached out to key clients, offering them discounts and guarantees to regain their confidence. Slowly, sales began to climb again. But our real breakthrough came when we decided to pivot. Instead of just flipping sneakers, we expanded into a full-scale e-commerce operation. We sourced high-demand products outside of footwear, rare collectibles, limited edition streetwear, and even tech gadgets. By diversifying our inventory, we reduced the risks associated with relying on a single market. The shift required intense research, but it paid off. Within 2 months, our revenue was back on track, and for the first time since the setback, we started seeing real growth again. Just as things were looking up, another challenge hit us: competition. Other resellers, noticing our resurgence, started slashing prices and aggressively targeting our customers. Some even spread rumors that we were still unstable from the theft. It was a direct attack, and we had to respond. Instead of engaging in a price war, we focused on superior service, faster shipping, better customer support, and exclusive deals for repeat buyers. Our reputation became our greatest weapon, and soon, our loyal customers started calling out the competition for their underhanded tactics. Meanwhile, I was still trying to balance school with the business. Between late-night inventory checks and early morning classes, exhaustion became my constant companion. Derek suggested we bring in another partner to help with operations, someone who could manage logistics while we focused on growth. At first, I was hesitant. After everything that had happened, trusting someone new felt risky. But we needed help. We carefully interviewed candidates and finally brought in Sarah, a business major with experience in supply chain management. Her impact was immediate. With her handling the back end, Derek and I could focus on strategy and scaling up. Then came the moment we had been working toward. The boutique that had originally given us a chance reached out again. They had been watching our recovery and were impressed with how we handled adversity. They wanted to place an even larger order, not just for sneakers, but for a range of exclusive items. It was a defining moment. We had gone from near collapse to being stronger than ever. As I sat in my room that night, reflecting on everything we had been through, I realized something: I had learned more in the past year than I ever could have in a classroom. Business wasn't just about making money. It was about resilience, adaptability, and knowing when to bet on yourself. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning.